Good morning and welcome to the February 12, 2022 meeting of the Coalition of Little Rock Neighborhoods. Our speaker will be Virgil Miller. By recording, he had a direct conflict on this topic of public safety measures from the city in response to the emergency public health declaration. We have invited candidates to come and to have 1 minute apiece to introduce themselves, to provide their contact information, and to begin to prepare for our big candidate forum at our April the 9th coalition meeting on a Saturday morning. So let me begin. Let's see, let me call on Wendy Wood and do put your contact information in the chat. And I'm going to put you on a timer of 1 minute. Thank you, Wendy. Let us hear from you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's exciting to be here. I'm Wendy Wood, and I'm running for judge on the Arkansas Court of Appeals. I have been a lawyer in Little Rock for 25 years, and for the past 15 years have worked at the Court of Appeals for Judge Larry Vaught. He is retiring, and I am running for his seat. I have worked on over 1,500 appeals at the court and written over 500 draft opinions for Judge Vaught. I have feel like I have been training for this position on this court for 25 years and feel like I am the strongest and most experienced candidate. And I would love to have your support and your vote. You can learn more about me at votewood.com. I have included that in the chat and my phone number as well. So thank you for your time. It's good to see all of you, and I appreciate being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Okay. Let's hear from LaTonya next.
Good morning, Kathy, and every participant that's on. Thank you so much for allowing us to come. I am LaTonya Austin Honorable. I am a candidate for Pulaski County Circuit Judge Division 5. Many of you may know this is not new to me being on the campaign trail, but I'm excited about this one as well. My website, which is also in the chat, is thehonorablechoice.com. And you can also reach me via email, thehonorablechoice@gmail.com. And my phone number is listed in the chat as well. I have been a practicing attorney here for 19 years, and I have practiced in a number of different areas, including criminal, family law, civil litigation, including landlord-tenant, breach of contract, probate and estate planning, and a number of other areas. I look forward to the opportunity to serve as your next circuit court judge. And the election, so we don't forget, is May 24th. And judges are elected during the primary, not during the general. So please make sure you get that word out. And I, again, look forward to serving you. Many of you may know a little bit about the... Oh, sorry. Don't want to go over time. Thank you for having me, Kathy.
And we'll look for your contact in the chat. We do encourage you to put comments in our Facebook page in the discussion. You're welcome to stay for it. The Facebook page is at clrn.ar. We want to have an exchange here. We're figuring this out as we go along. We probably can't just have everybody talk. We think we can't do that. Let us see. Mary, have you tracked the way the candidates come in? Is Donna Massey the next? I'm trying to take them roughly in order.
I didn't track the order. Sorry.
Well, I'm going to say what comes up on my screen, which is Donna Massey. And put your details in the chat, Donna. And I'm starting your timer now. Thank you, Donna.
Good morning, everyone. Kathy, thank you for allowing us to come and speak before you. I am Justice Donna Massey. I serve on the Pulaski County Quorum Court. I'm seeking re-election because I want to continue to be a strong voice for our community. I'm truly not a Johnny-come-lately to politics. I do understand there are 5 important things that you have to have in a community for them to flourish. You have to have educational opportunities, a community that offers job opportunities. People want to feel healthy. People want to be safe. And lastly, but not least, people want to know there's recreation opportunities. And in speaking of regards to recreational opportunities, I'm very excited about a pilot program that Pulaski County is bringing forth next month. that I had very much or all to do with. It's called Tennis, Literacy, and Chess. It's going to focus on the intellectual, as well as giving the children the opportunity to exercise and to focus on their cognitive thinking. That's tennis, literacy, and chess. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, I need to do a gallery view here. Are there another candidates? Bear with me while I'm fumbling with this. Have we heard from all the candidates? Andrew Collins? No, we have not. Andrew, let us hear from you, please.
Thank you, and I apologize for the backdrop. I'm actually at a basketball game at the boys club, so I'm outside of here. But my name is Andrew Collins. I'm a state representative representing currently District 35, will be District 73. And that district runs from Riverdale through the Heights and Foxcroft, Robinwood, Camac Village, all the way out through Pleasant Valley, Pleasant Forest, Piedmont, and out to Pinnacle Mountain. So it's hard to kind of describe the district, but it more or less runs along Cantrell. I've been in the legislature for 2 terms. I am a Democrat. I'm running for re-election in November. My focuses have been, and my bills have been, and my efforts have been around economic opportunity, stronger schools, public health, and public safety. So the topic of today's discussion is important to me and important to the people in my district, I know. My contact information is Andrew Collins AR. It's my website.com. And my email is andrew@andrewcollinsar.com. And my cell phone is 501-650-2233. Always love to hear from constituents or others about any issue that I can help with. Appreciate y'all having me today, and I'm gonna go inside and warm up.
Can you put it in the chat, please? Or put
I
it
did
on the Facebook page? All right, thank you. That has concluded all the candidates, I think. I've got 9 on the page, and I believe all the candidates have spoken. Let me hear from you if I am going wrong with that. Let us introduce ourselves a bit. We've got Robert Walker. Introduce yourself to us, please. Robert, unmute yourself and introduce it. He's the Capitol View Stiff Station delegate. John Hedrick, please unmute yourself and introduce yourself.
All right, John Hedrick, Vice President of the Downtown Neighborhood Association.
Robert,
Sorry, I thought Andrew might just be outside. I went to look for him.
well, introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, I am Robert Walker. I am in the Capitol View Stiff Station neighborhood. And that's pretty much it, I guess. I do other things. I ride my bicycle, so I really appreciate recreational opportunities and so forth.
Thank you. Jan, introduce yourself, please.
Jan Baker, I'm a member of the Little Rock Sustainability Commission.
I am, by the way, the president of the Coalition of Little Rock Neighborhoods. I'm in the Downtown Neighborhood Association area, and I'm very pleased everyone came out today. Mary, introduce yourself, please.
I'm Mary Henthorne in Ward 4, and I'm here for tech support and to hear what you said.
Okay. The big topic we had today is what the city's doing to carry out the public health emergency resolution, remedies to make ourselves safer. We had asked Director Virgil Miller of Ward 1 to speak. Regrettably, he had a direct conflict at this hour. So we are attempting a new piece of technology, which we will test out today. We welcome feedback on it, but we recorded his interview of about 10 minutes earlier this week. And I'm now going to share screen with you and call it up. Mary's going to talk me through this. Now, do I start share screen and then bring up the video, Mary?
Yeah, share your screen and then start the video.
Okay.
And I advise everyone to turn your volume up. You may have to turn your volume up to hear this well. It will depend on some of this will depend on the quality of your speakers, but it seems to be adequate.
Okay, now I've got a screen that says share. I'm not sure how to pull the video up. I'm sorry. I need to tell it what to share, Mary. I've got a screen says share. Do I just pull up the video at this point?
You have to start the sharing. So click on the green button and then choose to share.
I have
your
to start the
screen.
sharing.
The second
Okay.
step. You're not sharing your screen yet. There you go. That's got
Okay.
it, Kathy. Now you can start your video.
Now I need, you're in the same place as this. I can't reach it. I'm sorry. How do I, here we go. I am attempting to start the video. Well, there we go.
While you're waiting for that, can I ask Donna Massey a question?
Sure.
Donna, what district do you represent?
I'm sorry, I represent District 6.
Okay, thank you. And did that change from before they redid the quorum court map?
No, I've always been District 6, and my district pretty much stayed the same. There were just some minor changes, but pretty much my district is the way it was before.
Okay, good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I've got it up, but it doesn't seem to function. Let's see if this one works. Let's see, now it seems to be thinking about this again. The app didn't start in the required time. Okay. I think that means I stop and start again. I'm going to stop the share. Now I'm going to try this again and see if I can pull it off this time. Share the screen, share the screen, share the screen.
I think when you did this during the test, you went to the open button near the top of your screen.
I don't see an open button. I'm sorry. I've got it that I can click on.
It's a blue button in the bar above
Oh,
the
the
video.
Okay, let's try.
Okay. And I think before it started on its own. Here we go.
Okay, folks. We're sharing screen from Virgil Miller in the no shelf.
It's a bad sign when those little blue circles don't go round and round.
Kathy, you might stop your own video and take a little stress off your network.
Comments. In your absence from our Saturday meeting of the Coalition of Little Rock Neighborhoods, where we are going to be discussing new renewed public safety efforts from the city of Little Rock. We know there was a major discussion on the emergency resolution and tasks to pursue to make the city safer. At yesterday's meeting of the board of directors, there were 10 contracts considered and approved to go forward for final vote next week under the PIT program. And we know there several other comments were made and references made to useful and successful programs. So we're going to look at both the big picture, and then we're going to ask Director Miller what he is going to be pursuing directly. On the big picture part of it, was there anyone named to oversee the tasks in response to the emergency resolution?
Yeah, so first off, Kathy, thanks for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to address those questions. They're very important questions. And specifically, the city manager, Bruce Moore, has been tasked with coming up with programs and giving us some ideas and getting our input on ideas as it relates to programs that are targeted to reduce the recent uptick in gun violence in our city. So the answer to your question is yes, Bruce Moore has been tasked with that assignment.
And has there been a list prepared of the tasks by which the city is making its response? There wasn't one referred to yesterday. It was just, we're taking these contracts before you, but that was, shall we say, one item out of 10 or 11 or 100.
Yes, well, those items that were presented for the board for next Tuesday were programs that had previously been on prevention, intervention, and treatment programs. And so they had already responded to a request for proposal. What we are doing now is to hone in specifically for programs that will reduce gun violence. As you are aware, and your colleagues are probably aware, that this recent declaration that declared a health emergency as it relates to gun violence permits the city to use abbreviated times to respond to bids and to develop programs and look at programs that specifically get towards the gun violence. We've encouraged our departments to look specifically for programs around the country. And I'm a big believer that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just take a look and see where gun violence happens a lot in this country. And of course, programs in New Orleans and Chicago are programs obviously that we're going to look at. Programs in New York that we're going to look at. Program in Brooklyn is called Save Our Streets. Program in Chicago called Ceasefire. There are a number of different programs, Kathy, that the city has to look at. And some of the basic things of many of these programs, if I could just give you some of the list of things that we kind of look at, is this program specifically dealing with gang intervention? The people in this program have to be major players who've been involved in this activity. They have to have a history of violent crime, and they've been recently incarcerated. So they have reputations for carrying guns, or they've been a victim of shootings, or they between a certain age. I believe the mayor specifically talked about most of the violence is being perpetrated by youth 11 to 24 years old. And so we are going to use what they call violence interrupters. I wasn't familiar with that term before I got on the board. VIs, violence interrupters that are on the street to help stop the violence that's taking place. And to use another term, outreach workers, OWs, as case managers to work. So the programs, Kathy, that we talked about Tuesday night they weren't really, as Director Richardson talked about, on-site, on-the-street type programs. That's what we're starting to look at now. What's going to be on the street to take a look at. And so those are some of the programs that we're looking at and some of the approaches that we're going to take.
Well, we certainly look forward to more as that develops. Thank you. Let me ask about citizen involvement, in particular, the question about asking citizens to tell the authorities about the presence of illegal guns on their block and in their neighborhood. We know there's a great deal of reluctance for fear of retaliation. There is doubt and mistrust that if someone turns in a reports to the Little Rock Police Department, that it will in fact be kept confidential and they will be in fact kept safe. And one of the things that I came across was that the Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms Division of our federal government uses a third-party reporting system called reportit.com. And this apparently has some years of service, some success with a number of agencies, and is an absolute barricade between the citizen reporting, we need to get the guns out of that old terrible house at 500 Markham, to borrow an address, and not have anything come back to harm. And I wanted to call that to your attention because that may be something that could be readily adopted and promoted and publicized that might get information flowing sooner rather than later.
I would agree with that. I'm familiar with these programs that, crime watch type programs that have rewards. I don't know how effective those have been, but certainly as it relates to trying to keep people safe, if they report these issues and make sure that there's no retaliation, we can look at a program like reportit.com. I'm sure that there probably are some programs out there that we haven't looked at, but I think the main thing is that we know we have to get the community involved. And you really can't get the community involved if they don't feel like they will be protected if they turn somebody in. They're not going to call because we know that in most cases, someone knows something. Someone knows who perpetrated the crime. They probably know where they live. They probably know them pretty well. But there is a fear out there, and we need to somehow mitigate that. And if there are programs out here like reportit.com that will give the citizens a sense of safety when they report, then that's what we need to do. Because we hear it all the time, Kathy. I've heard it my whole life. If you see something, say something. Someone's out there. I mean, whenever there's one of these crimes that happen, I see the police chief coming on television and saying, somebody knows something, help us, turn them in. Well, they're not going to call you. They're not going to turn them in if they don't feel protected. And so that is an extremely important part of this. In order to get our program to work the way that we want it to work, we've got to make citizens feel safe when they do report something. Because again, if they don't feel safe, they're not going to report something. And sadly, quite frankly, I certainly sympathize with that position.
Well, we look forward to reports back on how that is progressing. I know that your time is short here. Let me sort of close with a final question that we are focused on in our Coalition of Neighborhoods, and that is addressing the victim and their concerns. We've spoken before this about restorative justice, which focuses on the victim and on getting them some attention for their concerns, and as a bonus, you might say, carefully preparing the room so that the offender and the victim speak together, and where they have done this carefully and correctly. And we have success stories across the nation about this. The victim feels they are attended, and the offender modifies behavior. For the first time, this person who has been so alienated from everyone in the community, except perhaps gang buddies, begins to learn these are others who count, who should be respected, and that they themselves can gain by that process. So, would you be interested in pursuing a restorative justice component?
Kathy, I can tell you I'm wide open at this point. Restorative justice could be definitely something that I would encourage us to take a look at. I think all the cards are on the table at this point. We know that this is not going to be a simple or easy fix, because if it were simple, if it were easy, it would have been adopted years and years ago. But that's not going to stop us from pursuing every program that's out there that we believe can help us curb this uptick of gun violence in Little Rock, Arkansas. And so we want to look at models, and what I want to encourage you and the other participants in this call to do is send me information. If you see a program out there that you think or that you have seen work in other communities or heard something about, send it to me. All the cards are on the table at this point. And I believe the city manager has requested that we send him information as it relates to these type of programs, so we can take a look at them. I know that Director Richardson is extremely passionate about this. He's a professional in this line of work when he was doing his work with the Futures. And so when he talks, I really perk up and listen. And he's telling the board, and I'm hearing him say that, look, on-site, boots on the ground, violence interrupters are the type of programs that will have some immediate effect. And then the social wraparound programs that we have to adopt will have a long-term effect. The mayor talked about a holistic approach, and that's what we really want to adopt. I mean, we don't want to live in a police state. When you step out of your house, there's some law enforcement official on the block, on every block standing up. We don't want to live our lives that way, and we won't. But there are programs out there that we can get boots on the ground to try to address some of this violence. And quite frankly, what we're really trying to do, Kathy, is stop the violence before it happens. Because the police will show us that if there is an incident that's taking place, they can pretty much determine if there's going to be retaliation. And so if you know the victim, and you know some of the people that the victim has associated himself with or herself with, then we need to somehow get in between that to stop this tit for tat that's been going on. And of course, we know that gun violence, certainly the type of gun violence that we've witnessed in our city, 90+% of the people know each other. It was a targeted act. And so when you have that type of information, we have to be more proactive, and we're looking for programs that are proactive. We just don't want to deal with programs that are reactive. Law enforcement days can be a very reactive solution to something like this. And we have seen that it will probably have an effect for a short period of time, but once you pull back the reins on that, the incidents are going to pop back up again. So we have to have this holistic approach to this, not only with having the LRPD increase their patrols, in which you know that we've lifted the budgetary constraints on overtime over the next 30 days to get more patrols in the streets. But at the same time, we are graduating cadets from our academy, police academy. That's good, that's well, and we need to do it. But at the same time, we need to adopt this holistic approach to trying to stop having these violence interrupters, to have social workers on the streets, and to try to approach the whole family with it. That's the only way this thing is going to work long term. There are programs out there, programs that I probably have never heard of, maybe some programs you hadn't heard of, but the programs that you have, please send them to me and let us take a look at them, because all the cards are on the table at this point.
Good, and they send it to what email address, Virgil?
Send it to vmiller@littlerock.gov.
Thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate your taking part.
Thank you very much for having me, Kathy. And anytime you need for me to come and address the group, please send me an invitation and I will do my best to be there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That concludes the video. Did everyone hear it okay? Did anyone have any tech problems? Okay. Folks in the coalition, tell me your responses, please, what you think we ought to be doing, what you might suggest. I'm going to suggest we start trying to post these on our Facebook page at clrn.ar so we can have an ongoing dialogue and we can encourage officials to get the fruit of our thoughts there, as well as sending directly to Virgil Miller. One of the other nuggets that I can bring fresh to the table is, as of yesterday, the Little Rock School District had a tally of 1,000 on the truancy list. If we're talking about folks at high risk of turning to crime, who immediately should be a target for intervention, I would submit it's the truancy list, plus, of course, the dropout list. We're coming up on the legislative session that opens Monday. That's where we're talking about fiscal matters, and we have a state surplus. The sheriffs want the state prisoners out of the jails. The governor has said he's going to suggest putting money from their fresh surplus into 500 more prison beds, but the sheriffs have 2,500 prisoners backed up in the jails. And I think it would be a useful exercise to ask our legislators, what else might you achieve with that $60 million in community programs, expanded paroles, caseloads? We know that Little Rock gets more than anywhere else in the state. What about school programs for the truants to immediately keep them from going to prison? And what about looking at all parts of the justice pipeline? He talked about putting more police on the street, and we should be asking the companion question, and will there be more resources for the juvenile justice system, for the public defenders who are overloaded in that system, for the prosecutor staff, for the circuit judges and their diversion courts, and as I said, community programs for ex-inmates. So that's what we have done before, and I'm hopeful that we will do again. And now I'm going to be quiet and ask to hear from you. John, Jan, Robert. Unmute and tell me. Talk.
Well, I know how Wyatt Earp tamed Dodge City. I'm not going to suggest that we could do that, but I know how he did it. He said no firearms on the nice side of the tracks. We can't do that. But anybody who in the legislature who thinks we're better off by people running around with firearms should think on that. That's how Wyatt Earp tamed Dodge City. He said no firearms. And anybody who thinks that our local police officers trying to keep us safe should involve themselves with anything about checking the where somebody was born who is in the city and has information about a really violent crime. No, my police need to take care of me and protect me. They don't need to help ICE with their job.
Thank you, Robert. Who else wants to contribute here? John, Jan?
Well, I
don't-
would like, oh, excuse me, go
Go ahead,
ahead.
Jan. Go ahead, Jan.
I was interested in the opinion piece that John Flake wrote yesterday. I think it was yesterday, about consolidating local governments because of the need for having more money in order to put more police and social workers on the street. And it's not a new idea. I think it was presented in 2010 by Warren Stevens. But first he's saying we need to get our police force in order. And he proposed that maybe we would put the police force right now under the sheriff, Higgins, Eric Higgins, I believe. And so what do y'all think about that? Consolidating at least North Little Rock and Little Rock. He was saying North Little Rock, Conway, Jacksonville, and there may have been one other place. It's an idea that's been tossed around for a long time. And he's saying that businesses are going to suffer in Little Rock because no one would want to come here given the amount of crime that's in Little Rock now. They prefer to go to North Little Rock. We're going to lose our status in Little Rock as a progressive capital of our state if we don't address the issue. And he's saying address it by consolidating administrations. I don't know. Sounds like a possibly good idea. I did like your letter, Kathy, where you proposed different remedies. We've said it 50 million times. I think when the mayor first took office, his new buzzword was wraparound services. That seemed like a new word for him. And now he has another new word, which is holistic, which is the same thing as wraparound. It means all the services that somebody needs, you provide to that person. But we don't ever seem to do those things. We just talk wraparound. Now we go to holistic. And I think you're right. And Cappy Peck did say we need to pull everybody together and have one person directing this, not all these different services going willy-nilly by doing things. And I don't see the city having a focal point. All they want to do, again, is study crime. And didn't we do that when we had a whole bunch of gangs in the 1990s? So surely we can pull on a study off of the shelf and look at what worked before and maybe could work again in Little Rock without reinventing the wheel yet again, with a holistic rather than a wraparound idea.
I can tell you one of the big things from the 90s was get the guns off the streets, and that was relentless. They've not talked a lot about that. We know that they will engage ATF because they've got some very heavyweight tools in their kit. I was impressed that they had a third-party reporting system. So they have apparently resolved the issue about getting information from citizens, and citizens are reassured they will not suffer retaliation. So I hope that we will all look at reportit.com. There is, in fact, a smartphone app you can download and use to, send it in. So let me encourage everyone to pursue that. But getting the guns off the streets was a real big part of the 90s. So obviously we should be asking them what that looks like today.
Right.
Who else wants to comment? John?
Yeah, there we go. Just following up what you said, Kathy, I think we pour money into the wrong end of the pipeline with, the answer is building more prisons and so on. And as Robert said, we got a major cultural issue dealing with the gun situation, where we've been bombarded for 50 years or so that guns are the answer. You got to have a gun. You got to protect yourself. You got to have a gun. That spills down to these 11 to 24-year-olds. Got to have a gun, and guns are the answer. And that's a tough fight to overcome overcome that.
All this week, I've been doing some background research on the particular programs they named in the Tuesday discussion by the city directors. I'll do my best to get this out on our Facebook page. I think I have not done that step yet. The Ceasefire Chicago program got a very professional analysis done that I was able to find, that it concluded, and I really respected the reality in this analysis. They concluded some years into the operation of the program that it was successful and it did work. They did note that the fact that they were putting folks on the streets and they were doing an awful lot of self-starting meant there was a lack of information. They wanted for their rigorous information gathering process, which of course is what you want your evaluators to pursue, is great detail and assigning everybody a place and seeing how it all worked. And they were careful to know what was lacking, what was incomplete, what they could not venture an opinion on, and still concluded what they did know and had enough information to conclude upon was that it did work. So I found that rather reassuring, but it also made it clear that it took a lot of resources, a lot of staff time, and persistence. And that's one of the things that I would like to encourage folks to be considering when we take part in the civic discussions here for an emergency resolution response for the city of Little Rock. Really honor the reality. This will take perseverance. There is no quick fix, there is no silver bullet, and it is going to take ongoing money and staff and persistence to achieve these safer conditions for living. The restorative justice program out of Tennessee that I found, thanks to a referral from a professional, seems very successful. And this is something we've not really attempted in this community. But the notion is that where someone has been shot in a gang shooting on a corner, you carefully prepare. This is once again something that takes a lot of professional staff and does not happen quickly. But when you put it together and the victim and the offender are willing to speak at the same table, you have amazing beneficial results. And there is, in fact, a report on one such action that I'm going to get out there that shows you, once again, when you put the proper resources and enough resources on one of these issues, you can get beneficial outcomes. So I would encourage everyone to be looking for that kind of a thing and looking at something that we can start doing with the truants out there. We have a curfew in the city. The police need maybe more tools in their kit when they find someone to cite them out after curfew. The schools need more resources. It's sad that they seem to have quite written these folks off. And we need to maybe look at a new authority that can take on interventions with truants. Need to find out some more about that. Let's see right here.
Robert has his hand raised.
Robert, yes.
Thank you. Now, somebody brought up merging governments and everything, and you know, North Little Rock used to be part of Little Rock, and they sort of seceded. They said they could take care of themselves, and I think they would really oppose any, you know, proposal to consolidate governments. Now, you know, I have no problem with maybe we, you know, the Pulaski County and Little Rock, and they should work together. We couldn't get the bike share program to work because nobody involved would actually cooperate with anybody else. I mean, if some local place says no, then you can't. And, you know, I scratch my head when I think about Central Arkansas Water because so many governments are in charge of it and they have a board and they just do what they want. And now they're doing something with some little town far away from us, and they're coming up with a lot of money from us. And I don't understand why we have to worry about their water supply. They've messed it up. And I can tell you the river trail looks a lot better on the North Little Rock side, but that's not Little Rock's fault. North Little Rock doesn't have dillards in the way. So I don't know if I made myself very clear, but I think North Little Rock would violently oppose being annexed by Little Rock, and we just have a big fight.
It certainly would be an activity of many years to pursue for any kind of resolution. And I contrast that with the fact that we're talking about responses from the city on an emergency health declaration. And they seem not to quite fit together on that category, whatever else might be happening. And speaking about emergency responses, one of the homely little tools that we know works would certainly benefit from more resources, and that is more cameras on the street corners. I think all of us know of instances where there was some very open criminal activity on the street. A camera was installed and the activity subsided. And if they take the camera away again, the criminal activity resumes on the street very visibly. And that, once again, is an expense and some administrative action to apply the benefits for information that you collect from cameras on the streets.
We should switch to
That seems like something we could really push.
like the BBC TV shows where the police can always come up with the video, you know, recorded. They can track people, you know, in the crime shows, they can always find them based on that. They have cameras everywhere in Great Britain, or at least in London.
Well, that's true. And we're not talking about that level of funding or that number of cameras, but we do have some problem street corners that I think would bear attention. Anyone else have any comments at this point?
They would give them targets to shoot at.
Okay, let us close that discussion, at least for this morning. We want to continue on our Facebook page. I realize that I haven't reported on the outcome of the project that we undertook in the past month to invite the community to donate to the UAMS Auxiliary Fund designated to buy cookies to boost the morale of the COVID staff at UAMS. And when we started this, the auxiliary gave us the information that they would give cookies to 3,000 staff. We decided we wanted to try and get 6 cookies to each, which would be a purchase of 18,000 cookies. Community Bakery down at 12th and Main was very willing to take on the task if we would place the order with them, which was impressive because they would do this on the side from their regular baking. So that's a small bakery with a really big ability there. So the goal was $12,000. That was what would be the cost of the cookies. The bakery was going to waive the cost of the packaging, which was $2,500 donation to the project. And we have now concluded it. And we ended up showing that basically we should not give up our day job because this was not something that we were greatly successful at. But we did collect, and we have in that account $950. So we're going to buy $950 worth of cookies, and the bakery will deliver it, and the auxiliary will assign it as they think fit throughout the morale points of need in the UAMS medical system. I want to thank everyone who participated. The coalition itself donated $100, thanks to the vote of the delegates. And we will see what comes of it. I see there was an interest in donating more money. At this point, the auxiliary staff has closed that account. Thank you so much for that offer, but it looks like that's not an option. I'll check on that. But they are a tax deductible 501c3 account. So we wanted to ask everyone to donate there. And of course, they would have the direction of the project in their facility. We're just going to be the community boosters that tried to get some resources to them to undertake the project. So that's the end of that. And once again, thank you for all your support. We will consider next directions next time. I wanted to call attention to the fact that at our next meeting a month from now, March 12th, Pulaski County Clerk Terry Hollingsworth will speak about the changes in election laws. She's very anxious to educate voters about the status of laws on the books today to make sure that no one is hindered from voting because they miss out on understanding the requirements to vote this election season. And then April the 9th will be our candidate forum. We're going to be welcoming volunteers to be on the question panel. Start now submitting your questions to ask candidates. We expect to have candidates for the legislature and judicial candidates. We've got some races for circuit judge. We have the JP races. We will basically be doing interviews with races on the ballot. So if someone is running unopposed, we would wish them well, we would list them, but we would not try and take time out of the discussion with races where there's multiple candidates. Does anyone have anything else they want to bring before us today?
Robert has his hand raised.
Yes, Robert.
Since you're going to have Terry, I think everybody's familiar with the vote centers. The way you do early voting is you can show up at the early voting site and vote, and anybody who's a registered voter who can participate in the election can vote right there. And it is possible that every precinct could become a vote center on election day. There's always a half a dozen people who are lost and are dozen who show up at the wrong place. And, you know, I think you should prime Terry with the question of why can't each voting precinct, each polling place just become a vote center on election day and say, yes, our little magic machines have checked and you are a registered voter. You're actually voting in the wrong place. And the real place to vote is somewhere else, but we can just give you authorization to vote. That handicap voting thing that nobody uses can be used to allow any registered voter to vote at any polling place. So, you know, it's clear to me that it just would take the wheel and we could say, just show up and vote. And if you don't like the line, go to the next one.
Well,
Okay.
that's a provocative policy question. I will definitely relay that to Terry so she can reply. John, did you have your hand up?
Yes, wanted to make an announcement that the Mac Park Group had been working for about 2 years to obtain funding for the unlimited playground, which is playground with new equipment that will be available to all regardless of their abilities. And Friday morning, 10 o'clock will be a groundbreaking and everyone's invited. The playground will be located, I'd say, behind the MacArthur Museum and between the Arts Center, the Museum Fine Arts, and the multi-purpose courts.
You would
So
take 9th Street to that turnoff onto the driveway to the law school, would you not?
yes, that'd be good. Yeah, or park on McMath or the parking, enter in toward the museum and south in that parking lot there, either way. And again, 10 a.m. Saturday, the mayor and parks folks will be there, and construction will begin shortly.
John, you said both Friday and Saturday. Repeat the announcement.
Friday, I'm sorry, Friday, yeah, 10 a.m. Friday. this coming Friday.
A week from now, essentially. Okay. All right. Yes, Jan.
Well, since we're talking parks, I would say that the Keep Little Rock Beautiful, Great Little Rock Cleanup is going to be on March 12th from 9 to 12. And the Little Rock Sustainability Commission has partnered with the Rose Creek Initiative, and we will be cleaning up Rose Creek, but mostly we're going to be focusing on the creek. We're going to be erecting a trash boom across the creek down at Rose Creek Park to keep the trash from flowing into the Arkansas River that is coming in the Rose Creek watershed. That's a big deal. And we're going to be using equipment that was discovered up behind Whitewater Tavern where the Arkansas River Trail may go. There's a whole bunch of PVC pipe, concrete blocks, concrete corbels, light posts that have been dumped there by the city. They've been there for years. And so we're going to use some of the PVC pipe that's been put there that will save us some money to help us erect the trash boom across Rose Creek. And come and join us. Wear your waders because we're going to be focusing on getting the trash out of the creek and putting a trash boom in.
Thank you for that announcement. And once again, let me call attention to the fact that our civic landscape has a conflict. March the 12th, you're asked to be part of the cleanup of the city and the Rose Creek Boom building. And we're asking you to come hear about voting election laws from Terry Hollinsworth. We will record that and we will post the video on Facebook, on YouTube, linked from the Facebook page. So we will have information that absent friends can take the benefit of when their schedule permits.
Good
I'm
deal.
going to start the recording now. This concludes the February 12th session of the Coalition of Little Rock Neighborhoods.
Robert
yeah.
does have his hand raised.
No,
Rob-
that was a goodbye.
Oh, okay.
Robert, did you need to say something?
On Martin Luther King Day, I was down at Interstate Park where a lot of my friends got to, and we were cleaning up Arch Street Pike, and we pulled out more than 200, I think, tires that had been dumped off the side of Arch Street Pike. Now, I know we got laws against littering and everything like that. There's supposed to be something about recycling tires, but it is obviously not working if we pull 200 tires back up there for the highway department to pick up from Arch Street Pike. You know, it's just.
Yeah, we got the knuckleheads always with us.
No, I think we need to change a few laws. I mean, you know, the tires, there's enough barcodes in the world that we could label everything that is produced that's discarded. We could identify who sold the item and even who bought it if we tried, you know, and that's an approach towards.
In the oversight, nobody's really interested in putting the money into that kind of activity. One of the things that I learned in my youth that has certainly been proven correct throughout my life is that we have all the government we're willing to pay for in this country. We have all the justice we're willing to pay for. We have all the law enforcement we're willing to pay for.
It would be really cheap to identify the things that are discarded. If, you know, we can, what you need is 100% surety that there will be consequences for actions. You don't really need a lot of jails and prisons. You need 100% surety that somebody will call you on an action that is taken.
Well, there is that we know is proven reliably successful. Anything else from anyone else? Thank you so much. I would welcome your feedback on how you thought this went today. I apologize for my technical bumbling, but basically, did it work to have a video recording from Virgil Miller in his absence in person?
Yes, it did.
So we might continue that process as we continue to try and take an active part in the civic life of our community.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I needed to get some sense about whether that was a good idea or not.
Good idea.
Yeah.
And I'm correct if I'm not, that we probably need to keep those kind of limited to 10, no more than 15 minutes, because that can go on too long.
10
I had-
minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
10.
Well, we
Agreed, 10.
started for 10 and we ended up with 15. Aware of the fact that you've got public servants who like to get engaged and keep talking, and it's a diplomatic issue about calling time on them. It's easier to do with candidates in a forum structure. I've discovered that. But I appreciate that feedback. Did anyone have any other observations about the structure of the meeting? I have a feeling I'm talking too much, but I'm not sure just how I can convey more information because I'm so anxious to get resources before people in other media. I have to say, I'm going to go out and load up our Facebook page with referrals to the Tennessee program, Chicago Ceasefire program, the reportit.com. And I really encourage reportit.com. Go look at that website, download that app, and see if you can't talk that up in your network.
There was also, you probably looked at this, Kathy, but the Northern District of California did post a review of Operation Ceasefire on justice.gov, which I read, which was more current than the 2009 report that was done on the Chicago ceasefire.
That's the one I got, yeah.
You might take a look at that. This is more current. I don't know. I think it's 2019, but I looked at that and it was really extensive, talking about how they've used Project or Operation Ceasefire in California. And take a look at that.
Well, that's good to know.
It was a little more extensive than the 2009 report on the Chicago cease thing, although both of them concluded that it was successful. But you gotta, it's so intensive that you've got to
That's the
keep.
thing. It is intensive, and you have to invest money and you have to keep at it.
Right.
One of the things that they made the point of was, this is not something that anyone can be rotated into. This is not assembly line stuff. You have to have talent that can already function with links in the area you're targeting to reduce gang violence and street corner shootings. And Jan can't come into my neighborhood and I can't come into Jan's neighborhood and have that impact. And once you've got Jan on the job, you can't cut her off, short her pay, or make it so poorly supported that she gives up in disgust, because that just defeats the purpose. So you go in it for the long haul. This isn't a contract and you're done.
I don't want to do that job. I wouldn't want to facilitate it to keep them going, and I wouldn't want to be out there on the front lines because I think it might be dangerous.
There is no question that it is dangerous. I think that they were extremely fortunate. They've had escaped a lot of perilous situations from everything I can tell at a distance about that. So we have gone over time. Don't let me keep you any longer. I'm going to say the meeting is concluded, and come back next month and keep on contributing to the Facebook page. Thank you so much for everything.